You know, it's hard to imagine what these pictures would look like if they were crystal clear. In other words, if I were the guy working at NASA and I was looking at these pictures coming in, what astounding sights you would be seeing. It's too bad that we have nothing but blurry pictures or obscured in other different ways. It's so hard to bring it out. I spend so much time, hours and hours, just on one picture to try and bring it out. And then it doesn't help when you have the really super complicated construction that also, by the way, looks like rocks from a distance. Some are clearer than others. This is one of your typical triangular rocks. You can very clearly see the buildings on it. It is not a rock. It is made up of buildings. And when you see particularly one like that great big one right in the lower third coming up the right-hand side, you know, it's pretty obvious that way. So take your time and look around in there and you'll see all those individual buildings that make up this overall shape. Just imagine, just think what that would look like if that were crystal clear. And there's a lot going on in the background there too, as there always is. Very unusual. I had this picture previously. I found another one. I ran a video with this picture that was not a very good picture. And I found a better one, but it's still blurry. So I do my best to try and sharpen it up, and sometimes I'll colorize it. But in this picture here in the lower right, about the 3 o'clock position, there's some standalone structures there with other cubicle buildings behind it. And then underneath these large objects in the middle here, you can see some structures, again, standalone, regular, the type of structures that we recognize. And the arrows are pointing up high, that are pointing up to the top up there, are highlighting buildings that you can see clearly. On the top of these pointy structures here, they're building up to a point, and those are all buildings leading up to that point. On the part going down on the left-hand side, on the darker purple part there, you can see rows of structures going up. And they are, wherever you see that sawtooth shape, that is the rooftops of buildings. And you see a lot of that. And those are all structures built in rows that when you look at it from an angle, you get that sawtooth shape. And up on top in that area in the middle there is row after row of buildings, big ones, little ones, all along the outside edges. They have put the biggest buildings along the outside edges, and then they start building on in the middle of it. The negative really does highlight those that stair-step design. But this is such a complicated picture, and it's very intricate, and when it's a little bit blurry, it really does make it tough. But this is alien. You want to see alien? This is about as alien as it's ever going to get. Look at the buildings on the top left over there. You see those going up there? You see them? Look at them all. Those are all buildings. As usual, everything we're looking at is buildings. Look at in the white area there. Go back and take a look. It's those ghostly buildings. You can see them very clearly. And up on top, they have really tall buildings. One on the area in the front here has one really tall building on the top, and then the one on the right in the background there in the dark green. Look at that building on the right. Look at that structure, that complex structure with one really, really tall building. I mean, this is alien. This is about as alien as you're going to get. But it's kind of weird because they use this type of buildings that we're used to seeing, but then the way they put them all together, that's the alien part. And this big white rock in the middle, I almost completely overlooked it. I don't know why I didn't focus on it earlier. And I just, that's the raw image, and then I sharpened it there, and see how difficult it is to see. Everything's the same color in there. But it does stand out pretty good in the negative, and you can see the swirl on the right hand side of rows that are going from lower to higher. That's the beginning of a swirl, and I'll give you some more examples of that coming up. Here we go, another blurry picture, and there are tons of structures all up on the top. These are the ones that were clearer, or not clear, but that we're used to seeing up there in the top hand right. And then there's on the arching row of structures, those are all individual buildings. Also under the big slab there on the right, those are also structures down there, but those big slabs are structures. And in the chocolatey part on the top, you can see just barely make out their shapes. And on the edges you can see the various shapes of the buildings. And there's a triangular rock right in the middle there. Another one of the famous triangles. One of the ones that you see everywhere you look on Mars. You see these. If you look at a picture and you see a triangular rock, you better go in on it, because it's not going to be a rock. And I say this over and over and over. People would only focus in on these things. Look at the big building right in the middle of that triangular rock there. It's just like this one here. It also has a big building right in the middle of it. They have very similar structures. Both triangular, both have the stair-step design, and then the one great big building right in the middle of it there. And there's that swirl I'm talking about. That's just one example of a different triangular rock from a different video that I have. This is also a triangular rock that's been altered, but each one you can see the swirl going up. This big rock on the right, structure I mean, on the left hand side of it you can see a dark stripe going up from lower to higher, and that's an example of what that's going to be. It'll be a triangular rock. But in this negative here you can really see the shapes of the buildings on the structure on the right, up on the top right of it. A lot of flat tops there. You'll have to go back and take a look. It's a lousy picture, and the only way it comes out is in the negative. And I'm focusing on the bright white area on the left. It has some huge structures in it, and you can only see it in the negative. And really, if you want to take the time, look at all this other stuff in the front and the sides. It's amazing stuff. Thanks for watching, folks.